cause eviction.
A statute.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay, and explain that to the audience.
So it applies to market rate apartments because if you're rent stabilized or rent controlled, there's already that built in that there needs to be good cause. So it's pretty nuanced. It depends on the year that the building was built, when they last got their C of O, but it's trying to keep people in their homes that are market rate and kind of cap the amount of rent, but it's not enough.
And it basically means that, like, if they're going to evict you, they would have to have good cause to evict you. It can't just, they have to increase the rent at a certain rate,
Right.
and basically give you like first rights to continue your lease.
Right. It's important with how the renewal lease structure is.
Okay.
So I think a good way to really look at it, to simplify, is in New York State we have the rent stabilization law, and you are guaranteed a lease no matter what. The only way you don't get a lease is if you're a nuisance or if you don't pay the rent, right? Non-payment or a nuisance. And there's other little things here and there, but those are the two fundamental ones. Good cause expands that not just to the people who live in rent stabilized buildings, but to all buildings. Specifically, the buildings, from my understanding, is where landlords own 10 or more units. Right? So it doesn't have to be one building, my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong, but it's 10 units. If the landlord's 10 units dispersed amongst however many buildings and a couple other different provisions, they are subject to good cause. Good cause is non-payment, good cause is breach of lease for nuisance or other reasons that are outlined in the lease. So ultimately, in theory, it's great because now if you pay your rent, you have the right to a lease renewal. The issue still remains that it wasn't expanded to everyone. I'm of the opinion they should have just expanded the rent stabilization code.
Why not?
Right? And now there's also this sort of threshold question. It's not a limit, and I looked at it, of how much they can increase the rent. They say it's a threshold of 5% or the CPI,
Yeah. So I think
Consumer
it's like
Price Index.
it's somewhere around like 8%.
Whichever is higher,
Right.
I understand they're allowed to increase the rent by, but that's just a threshold because it gives the judges the discretion, if the landlords increase it beyond that, to justify that. And justifications for that are conditions that need to be repaired. Like, look at the buildings.
Yeah.
Look at the stock. These landlords intentionally neglect these buildings and these apartments. So I don't see it as robust as the rent stabilization protections, because the rent stabilization code is you cannot increase the rent beyond the rent guidelines board, period.
Yeah.
That's the amount. No judge gets to decide if there's a justification for an increase. So the law is, although like it's going to expand and help a lot of tenants in the city, there's a lot of room for question marks, because I mean, we've been in housing court and these judges are, for the most part, in my opinion, like beholden to the landlord bar and the landlord's community here in the city.
Without a doubt.